Lafayette Mandala, Bibi Fahudier, is your favorite brother, Blak Pantha, in the building today with a bit of a different show than you're probably used to. But since it's Black History Month, wanted to expand our viewership, expand our horizons, and bring a brother on the show that deals in physics, deals in science, deals in something that we all need to understand and navigate life as we know it. Brother Eric Electrons is joining us today. How you feeling today, brother?
Feeling good. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, it's no problem, man. No problem, brother. You on the West Coast today?
Yeah. Right now I'm in California, in Berkeley, California. So yeah, I'm in the West Coast right now, and I'll be here for like a good week. No, 2 weeks actually, and then I'm going back to Atlanta, where I live at.
Okay, okay. That's something we have in common. I live in Atlanta, not working, but that's home for me. So I understand. Hopefully, the prices in California's hotel didn't hit you over the head too bad. But but other than that, we're glad to have you. Um, let's jump right into the questions, man. I know that you're a student at Georgia State University. So what made you take on physics as your major?
Oh, that's a really good story. So, there was one time, like I was just working regular jobs because I'm a non-traditional student, meaning I didn't jump into college directly after high school. Like, I worked in the workforce for a good 5 to 6 years before I decided, and I was working and stuff, and then I fell asleep, and I remember waking up to a documentary that um, talked about this scientist, this scientist who lost his father when he was about 12 years old, and it was out of nowhere. He got a heart attack. He died. It kind of threw his family in poverty, and he always wanted to tell his father, like, to take better care of his health and all this other stuff. So he started studying Einstein because Einstein was studying like time and the possibility of time travel and all that other stuff. And he wanted to build his own time machine. So he learned all he could about relativity, which is what Einstein was working on. And he became a physicist, a real life physicist, and he does work in time. And hopefully, he says one day someone could find out how to, officially time travel. So that really intrigued me, the fact that Einstein was working on something like that, and it made me want to work on things related to time and related to that whole idea, because I've always loved time travel. I always loved you know that whole concept of possibly being able to manipulate space and time. So that's what initially got me into physics.
Wow, that is not what I expected. That that's definitely a unique story to get into physics. Wow, falling
Yeah.
asleep and watching a documentary. That's definitely one that you got to put in a book, brother.
Yeah, man. It was like an epiphany.
So you mentioned, Einstein theory, relativity, things like that.
Mhm.
What is there a specific type of physics that you delve in, or is it a broad manner?
Me personally, I've done stuff with black holes. I've helped categorize certain black holes, and
Mm,
we deal with relativity there, like with relativistic equations, because when you're doing things of relativity, you're considering things on a macro scale. You're considering galaxies, you're considering planets, and how they operate in space and time.
mm.
So, I deal with stuff there. But when I go to grad school, I'm going to deal more with theoretical physics, most likely. So yeah, I'll probably be more in the theoretical space, but right now I'm more so in the astrophysics space.
Wow. And probably most of my audience watching have been introduced to astrophysics through Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Hmm.
So now you can say, another brother that is, delved in the astrophysics realm. That's the realm, is very interesting to myself as well. I've taken courses on it as well, to include Neil deGrasse Tyson's masterclass. So that's definitely a field that I believe, is the future. So that's definitely something that, I encourage you to keep going in. I know you're going to do your theoretical physics as well. But astrophysics is, it's an infinite study to me.
Oh yeah,
You never
definitely.
know where that's going to go,
Yeah, you're right.
So speaking of, other people in that field, who are some of your influences in the scientific realm?
Oh, that's a good one. I pull from so many people because the scientific realm, it has so many great people, but I've always been really intrigued by those who seem like obsessed by what they did and produced a lot. So like sometimes it's scientific people, but sometimes it's mathematicians like Ramanujan, the Indian mathematician.
Mm,
He was really influential. Leonard Euler, the mathematician, was really influence. Obviously Einstein. Obviously that the guy, the scientist that inspired me to get into science. He's a physicist. He's still living. I think I forgot what institution he's in, but he inspired me. And actually, I bought his book, and his book came with an autograph from him, like surprisingly. So that was pretty cool.
oh wow.
Yeah. Who else? Max Planck. Marie Curie, like the fact that she had children, she had a husband. They used to work together, her and Pierre Curie, and they discovered radium and many other things, and
Mm,
produce all this stuff. I mean, just so many people who, push their field forward. Like I love the paradigm shifters too. So yeah, I try to pull a little bit from everyone. Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of said this too. He says he pulls from like the best people and makes like a collage in terms of like
absolutely.
their influence. So yeah, that's exactly what I do too.
Absolutely. And I think me and my constituents and colleagues and comrades do that with African history. We try to pull from
Hmm.
the best people and then make a collage or internalize the best of their information and strategy and points and, give that back to the people in a manner in which is digestible. So I definitely understand getting many influences and, learning from each one. And speaking of influences and giving, what made you start doing your videos?
Um, just seeing a lack of reason out there, I guess, like a lack of a perspective, and then a lack of like nuance, because like everyone's very extreme online, and it's like extreme this, extreme that, and they're very sensationalized, and they want to make everything like a show almost. There's no balanced
Yeah,
perspectives. So when I first got out there, it was just more so to be somewhat of a voice of reason. But there was a selfish aspect for me too, because I wanted to learn uh, the best I can too from everyone. And I tried to talk to people from different backgrounds and different cultures because I just wanted to learn something new. I wanted to learn something different. On the internet is the only place that you can directly talk to people who are not like you. So that was the best way for me.
uh, um, that is absolutely true. The internet is a powerful tool, and
Mhm.
people like yourself and others, that use it for education should be commended. And because there's certainly so many other people that use it for other things to either push their agenda or mislead people and, things of that nature. So
Yeah.
we definitely support the people that want to educate people in certain epistemologies, because we need that voice in the whole room is full of other stuff. We
Yeah, you're
need
right.
that voices that actually educate people on things, because it's a lot out there. And I kind of stumbled on your videos through a brother that is a member of the Mossy Warrior clan. Shouts out to Urban Historian, brother Michael Hope. He put me on your videos because he's a
Cool.
archaeological student, and we talk different fields of science all the time. And he shared a couple of your things, and I was like, oh man, like this brother he's got some scientific stuff going on. And I was like, wait, he's in Atlanta too? Oh man, like man, as you know, Atlanta is ground zero for any and everything. So
Yeah.
we gonna have to link up, brother.
Oh, definitely.
We're stronger together.
You already know. I'm here for you. Yeah.
So it would really attracted me to your videos and things like that. But given that you're in an academic setting, you're in a scientific field, how many people in your class or in your studies or when you go to instruction are Black people?
In physics, definitely less than 4%, probably. Yeah, I don't see many, to be honest with you, in my or who are majoring in physics. And it's crazy because the school is like, majority Black, I would say. I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that because Georgia State University is, and for people that don't know about Georgia State University, it's right downtown in Atlanta. Atlanta being one of the blackest cities in America.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to have 4%, that's a disparity that we have to work to, close the gap. And that starts, we've had conversations where that starts with getting children interested in science from a young age. That obviously doesn't happen on a mass scale, but I believe that science is something that can help Black people in our society. I think it's something that we need to kind of take more of an interest in. I don't know what your opinion is on that, but I think lack of science is, in some regards, holding us back in certain areas. Like, what do you think about that?
That's a really good perspective. I think you're right in terms of we should definitely teach kids science a lot earlier, because I think what it is, some people are very intimidated by it. Like, they're intimidated by the numbers, they're intimidated by stuff. But I mean, when you think about it, we're doing that type of stuff every day. When we're making decisions, we're doing science every day. When we're worrying about our finances, we're doing math every day. So this is just a step further. But when people aren't used to something, they tend to like not even want to try it. And I think that's what's like stopping more Black people from getting into science. It's not that they can't do it, obviously. It's because they're just not exposed to it nearly as much when they're younger, and then they allow their intimidation to, or their lack of confidence to get them into the field. I mean, and you already know too, like when it comes to people, like be it or we all have friends that were in the streets in some way, shape, or form, and you know, like I've known people who were terrific at math, you know, they just sold drugs. Or I know people who were terrific at you know, being logical and being able to like break stuff down, but they were
Right.
doing some other thing that was like illegal and stuff. But if we could redirect that energy into math and science
Oh yeah.
and be useful, I think, you know, we would see a big change. We would just need a cultural shift into that. And I think the lack of critical thinking, I think that's what's holding people back, more than not knowing science itself. But yeah,
Hmm.
it starts definitely at the lack of philosophical training, and then the lack of confidence people have. Definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me give some shout outs to some people in the chat room. Peace, brother Kenny Anderson, brother Tetsi Ursama Rasa Nefru, brother Keenan Wright, sister Anusha. If I said your name wrong, I'm sorry. I know you support us all the time. Brother Chavis, brother Zane, my brother Sean is in the building. Lamar Pope, brother Robert Ron, peace, brother. Brother Vasa, sister Julana. I appreciate all y'all for coming in for this very important discussion. But back to the questions. Have you, being that you said it's around 4%, have you
Mhm.
experienced any racism in your field?
Um, Believe it or not, no, not a negative type. I received a positive type. So I received a
Positive
type.
type. Now I'm curious.
Yeah. So like I understand, you know, when we're talking about racism, people sometimes have different definitions of what racism is. Like, of course, there's the regular dictionary definition of, you know,
Mm-hmm.
prejudice towards a certain race. But then I know some people operate on the prejudice plus power definition too.
Yeah.
I'm more
Systemic
so,
part.
yeah, and I'm more so talking about the original definition in terms of prejudice. And what I mean by positive prejudice is I've been approached with opportunities just because you know, there's not many black people in science, so they're like, oh, you know, any black scientists for this position or that position,
Mhm.
they'll throw me opportunities and stuff, and I'm a very stubborn individual when it comes to that because I don't want to be uh,
The
given,
token.
I don't want to be that, and I don't want to get opportunities just because I'm black. You know, I want to compete with everyone else, so I never take those positions. But that's the type, I would say, you know, people assuming that my political leanings because I'm black. I mean that, but nothing negative, nothing where I felt like I was being held back because
Okay.
of my race. So yeah.
So more of like a affirmative action approach towards you,
Exactly.
trying to
Yeah.
get you in there on the old Rooney Rule type energy, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Yeah. Basically. Yeah.
Okay, okay, understood. What is something you think everyone should know about physics?
Oh, that's a good one. I think physics is for everyone. It's the building blocks of all science. You know, everything starts at physics. You know, it's all about the matter, the interactions with the universe,
Mm.
and what I love about physics is it teaches us how to think about things, and it makes us aware of what we know, what we don't know, but it also makes us ask questions about what we don't even know about what we don't even know. And yeah, so it's such a broad field that could teach you so much, and the things that you previously didn't think were possible could be possible through physics. I mean, you know, who would have known that we would be able to fly planes or be able to talk on this from
Yeah.
thousands of miles away, you know, and
Mhm.
at light speed, because you know radio signals, they travel at light speed. So that is just amazing on its own, and that's all possible through physics.
Yeah, it's a I think we take it for granted. you know, the technology boom, you know, from when I was in college to now is just crazy. In fact,
Yeah.
I kind of wish I'd have waited to go to college a little later, so I could take advantage of some of this technological breakthroughs.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
YouTube was just kicking off when I was in college. You
Oh,
couldn't,
okay.
we didn't. It was just kicking off. Hey, Wikipedia was just kicking off when I went to college. So it was it's one of those things where our kids be complaining now. I'd be like, you got a whole encyclopedia at your fingertips. I had to
Yeah.
dig into Britannicas.
Yeah, the
And
good old
my
days.
mama
Yeah.
was cheap, so we didn't have all the volumes. I
Yeah,
was
people,
I was struggling.
yeah, people got no excuses now. I swear.
Yeah, man. I had to go
Yeah.
to the library. Like I had to go. Like I didn't go. There was no research.
Yep, no, none done. Yeah, you had to have to flip every page and then look at
You know
everything.
what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like I'll be bad to my kids now. I'm like, oh my god, I got everything. I mean, I know we worked so that would happen, right? That was supposed to be the desired result, but God, like
I
man,
know. It's a
I did
struggle.
get to do grad school later, and I
That's
did get to
good.
take advantage then. But when I was in college, like in the classroom, oh God, tape
Yeah,
recorders, man.
I bet. I bet. What was your major?
When I was at Auburn University, my major was communications.
Oh, cool, cool.
So
It's a
yeah, but
lot of work.
I ended up switching that later in life to logistics,
Oh, okay.
and then later for my master's, I did project management.
Okay.
So yeah, still a
Wow.
lot of work, but definitely something. I'm glad that I took the field up. And people that ask questions, put them in the chat. I'm gonna ask them at the end. But yeah, don't hold back. Put your questions in the chat room. So I'm gonna do what most people do on shows and lead people by this question. I'm gonna just ask the question so people can't say I led you to any answer.
Okay.
How do you feel about vaccines?
Um, okay, so first I would like to say I understand people being skeptical about vaccines and all that other stuff because I have family members who are super skeptical. My grandma will not take a vaccine worth anything. So I understand why, because America and other
Mhm.
governments have a history of misusing that practice on people, specifically Black people, for a very, very long time. Um, but I think that those days are long over due to the new regulations that we have. I think that the days of the the experimenting on people are long over in terms of like how we do trials now. Like, so for instance, how vaccines usually come into play is they work on it in a lab, and then you have to do multiple trials with multiple first you do like stuff with animals, like you do stuff with mice, and then from mice, then if that passes and that goes good, then you get human volunteers where humans come in, and then you do trials of that nature, and then after you do the first trial, then you do the second trial, then you do the third trial. It takes months to do this, and then finally you could come out with your results, and if those results are good, then you have to report it to the government, then the government has to approve of it, and then your vaccine goes out. So now those steps are in, whereas like you know be it with the forced sterilization of Henrietta Lacks, like there was no regulations to protect her or protect her and her family
Mm,
from that, unfortunately. When it came to Tuskegee experiments, there were no protections by the government for that.
mm,
When it came to like all these things, there were no protections, but now there are tons of protections, and that's not to say that vaccines are perfect. That's not to say that the government is perfect. The government will never be perfect. You know, they're in my eyes, I think the government doesn't necessarily have our best interests at heart, but I do think when it comes to the science is pretty much there, and it's very hard to misuse it and go under the radar now. And that's why I think vaccines are very important and mostly safe today.
So science has its own vetting process, is what you're saying now, and that's a vetting process that scientists have created, partly because of the atrocities of what happened, in the past. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, correct. That's a perfect way to put it.
Absolutely. Specifically, what are your thoughts on the COVID-19 vaccine?
So I think that it's a remarkable feat of science today, and what you were saying about how technology has done so much, because usually vaccines take about a couple years or more. I would say sometimes it even takes like 10 years in order to come out with a really good one. But it's just the fact that the whole world was working on this at the same time, and we could communicate much faster, the results go faster. It was easier to travel after the travel bans were in place and things of that nature. So um, it was just a remarkable feat of science and technology to be able to do that so fast, and that's the reason why it came out so fast. And again, I understand why people were skeptical of it, but it's mostly due to how technology was. But I think this was a really good vaccine because of the way that they did it. It's a new method in terms of like how it gives basically your body the material of the virus without actually giving you the virus, and your
Right.
body is fighting off that material from the virus, and
Yeah.
it builds all the the proteins and the things that it needs to fight against the virus from when it actually enters your body. And that's basically what it does, and it's so effective. I think it's one of the most effective ones yet. So
Oh,
I feel really
absolutely.
good
Our
about that
flu
one.
virus is trash. I mean, our flu vaccine is trash.
Yeah, it is.
It's trash. And messenger RNA vaccines, the concept is just unbelievable. Like you basically tricking your body to get ready for a virus.
Hmm.
You basically telling your body, hey, it's gonna be a guy that comes around here that looks like me. When you see him, you stomp him out.
Yeah, yeah. We gonna jump him when he comes around this corner, right?
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
hey, I know I look like him, but I'm not him. I'm gonna dissolve on my own. But the next dude you see with this shirt on,
It's exactly what it does. It's a
take
perfect way to put
him out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta explain it sometimes like that so people
Yeah,
will know, that's the goal. Like, if you see
yeah,
this dude, don't let him reach the home,
yeah,
like
yeah.
beat him to death. Like,
Yeah, and that's a
that's
good way
how.
to put it too, because like some people are like, well, why, I rather just get the virus, and so my body could prepare itself for any other strain that comes with it. But the problem with that is you don't know any health issues that might inflame because of having the real thing, or you don't know how your body will take it, because you could be a perfectly healthy person too, and then it affects you in some way, shape, or form, because this is a new virus. Like, we don't know too much about it yet. We don't know a lot of things. So it's just best to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. So everyone heard me ask him those two vaccine questions non-biasly. So I don't want to hear nothing in my comments in my inbox about, oh, you just led that brother to that. No, I did not. I asked him independently as a man of science, and those were his answers. I don't hear nothing else from y'all. Y'all be on me about that, man. All right. What do you think? Why do you think it is that people are drawn to, the conspiracy theories more than credible research?
I mean, to be completely honest, they're fun. Like
They're
they're
fun.
really fun. Yeah, I mean, when you
We
look
just
at
have fun.
YouTube, yeah, I
We
mean,
just
when
have fun.
you look at YouTube, you look at all this stuff. It's very fun to just dive into it and then to find all these connections and then to learn something new. Like the way that uh people tell the conspiracies to like how people connect things. It's like I'm not sure if you remember Carmen San Diego, like
Oh yeah.
yeah, like it's kind of like that. Is you're just making all these
You gotta
dots and
find Carmen
connections.
San Diego.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean that was a fun game for me, and I love that to bits. But yeah, I mean conspiracies are fun. They're very fun. They're very exciting. And then of course the narrative that there's like these super smart, super evil people who gather around this table to make all this stuff up. I think it's a very attractive idea, but I wish people knew that people weren't that smart. Like
They
people,
really not.
yeah, they're really not. Like
People think the
people are.
Legion of Doom is out there for real.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and it's like no, people aren't that smart. It's just they're yeah, there are definitely evil people in the world. There are definitely people who go against our best interests or best interest. I mean, that goes against our best interests and then also the best interests of others. But it's not like what it is. And then why they're not attracted to more research, I think it's partly the fault of scientists. Like scientists are notoriously bad communicators. um this
yeah,
whole vaccine situation, for instance, and this is another reason why I understand. I mean, why I understand why people are against the vaccine is because like someone like Dr. Fauci, like the way he communicates stuff, and he's also been caught lying, to
hmm
my knowledge about certain things. When you're caught lying because you think that people are too stupid to do something or whatever the case may be, it makes people distrust you. And and like say for instance Dr. Fauci, he lied in I think it was February or March about what did he lie about? He lied about a mask. He said that he told people not to wear masks because um he said he wanted to save them for healthcare providers. And he admitted to this, I think it was like in August of 2020.
mm
And see, stuff like that is the reason why people are like, I don't know what to believe. I can't listen to scientists, especially from the government. Like, I don't know. And there's been a history of certain authority figures in science lying about stuff in order to
right.
achieve a certain result. So, people are just skeptical and
And
stuff.
not only
But
that, scientists don't write things for the layperson. I had to learn that when I was first reading scientific articles, reading scientific journals, reading scientific, thesis.
mhm.
This ain't for me. So they really write for other scientists,
That's a really good point.
in their field. Um, you know, it. I had to learn the
Yeah,
language of science. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I had to learn what they meant when certain things happen. And one would say, one could probably say that Dr. Fauci wasn't, necessarily lying.
Mhm.
'Cause I've heard that, and they'll say that he kind of geared the question toward a way because of a sense of not wanting to create a sense of panic.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sean just wrote it, and I've seen that, and people's mouth when they understand what's going on, and they're like, "Well, why did you say that?"
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it's one of those things where you got to learn the language of science to
Yeah.
even start studying science on a serious level. And one thing I try to do with it is with the analogies. I was like, okay, I understand the con. Let me put this in a manner in which most people, can digest it. Because a lot of people want to know what's going on, but when you start using those scientific lingo, they're gonna be like, man, what is he talking about? I
Yeah,
have no
exactly. Yeah.
idea.
It sounds like a whole new language. So yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. And yeah, and then on Fauci, like the reason why I say he lied is because he said he previously knew this information, but he was trying to help out healthcare workers. So then he said this to prevent people from buying up masks, which didn't, help at all because everyone bought up every mask they could possibly
Everybody
find.
bought up every
So
mask on the
yeah, and
planet.
it's just a small little fib like that that would
Yeah.
make people skeptical of you. And like you said, you also have to communicate in a way where everyone could understand, without using tons of scientific jargon, using analogies and things of that nature. And I think he's been okay there, but
Mhm.
again, when authority figures tell small lies or just don't admit to like not knowing, 'cause it's okay to admit like, oh, okay, we at this time we don't know, but do whatever you think is best. Like so something as simple as that makes people feel better versus them learning that you told them one thing in 1 month and then you saying
Right.
something totally different in another month. Then people are like, I don't know if I could trust you now.
Yeah. Yeah, they get it, and when they already have that bias of they don't want to trust you, that
Yeah,
doesn't help. You know,
exactly.
it's already ingrained in their mind. So any little thing that they find, they're gonna be like, "Oh, wait, you said this, and then this is this," and and then you just go
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
But I want to ask you about this phenomenon in science that is highly debated. Uh, what is your opinion on dark matter? Does it exist?
Oh,
Not exist? Is it something else? Is it not matter at all? What's your opinion on that?
well, the short answer to that is we don't know. It's kind of like honestly, it's kind of like a placeholder for what we don't know. We know that there's something, and that's the reason why they call it dark matter, even though like Neil deGrasse Tyson says, it should be called transparent matter because it's like transparent. It's not dark like
We can't see it.
blocks. Yeah, yeah. It's more so like we can see through it, and there's something that is um out there that makes up for most of the universe, and
Mm,
and we know this through how matter and stuff interacts, and but we know that there's just something that um it's basically like if you were to look at like a puzzle piece, and you were looking at like a picture being formed when you're putting together this puzzle, and you could see the picture coming along, but you still can't make it out yet. Like you're like, I still don't know what this picture is. That's basically like what dark matter is. Like we know that it's there due to how matter interacts, because if galaxies wouldn't act in the way it does if it wasn't for dark matter. um the way that they move, the expansion of the universe, that has to do with dark matter, but we just don't know what it's made of. We don't know how it's created, or if it decays or not. So those are questions that are still being answered to this day.
mm. And that goes right into what we was just talking about. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, that's hard for some people to say, especially some of the characters that myself and others deal with in this community.
Mhm.
That can be powerful sometimes, just to say, hey, I don't have all the answers about this.
That's
It
true.
just is what it is. But when you get into science, you find out that's okay. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, and scientists, if you
okay.
meet most scientists, that they're more than willing to tell you when they don't know something. The regular person, it's just like a common practice. You're taught to humble yourself very early, because often relate science to boxing. In boxing, like you spar a lot, so you fight people a lot. So when you fight people a lot, you're not like going around in the street trying to bully people, because you know that people could you never know by how someone looks what they can do to you. And you've been humbled so many times, you've been punched in the face so many times. Physics punches you in the face probably more than any other subject, because you think something is right, and then these hidden variables come out of nowhere, and you think something is intuitive, but then it turns out to be counterintuitive. So it's a constant humbling experience, and that's why scientists are able to tell you that they don't know when they actually don't know, and they're not afraid to.
Absolutely. So can you explain quantum theory for our audience in the simplest way possible? Because I hear it get used in a lot of manner that I wouldn't particularly regard as quantum theory, but I just want to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so quantum theory is basically the theory of the very, very small, and that goes from the atomic level, with atoms and all that, all the way into the subatomic, which is all the things that make up atoms, like electrons, protons, neutrons, and then even smaller to you know uh, people don't know that subatomic particles have flavors. There's up, down, charm, strange. These are all top, bottom. These are all flavors of subatomic particles.
Mm.
So like there's mesons, there's leptons, and all this other stuff. So uh, quantum mechanics, or quantum theory in a nutshell, is just the theory of the very, very small.
So on such a level that we can't regularly see with our well, of course not with our naked eye, but even with some of our technology, like we just
Yeah.
can't be that small.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've just recently been able to, like, I mean, the atom was discovered, a while back, but to be able to point out certain subatomic particles, I mean, it took particle accelerators to do that. So,
Mm.
I mean, that's a very recent thing.
So it's not just something on the flash.
Yeah,
Um, it's actually
yeah.
a accelerator.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it started with theoretical physics, because what you do in theoretical physics is you find the missing parts. Like I always, that's why I like saying it's like a puzzle. You see a picture being formed, and when you have the mathematics at your disposal, you're able to put puzzle pieces that aren't there yet. And then if the equations work out well, then you go forth with the experiments, and then the experiments will find whatever you theorize in your equations that worked. And that's usually how we find stuff, or discover new particles before they were even observed. So that's how physics usually works.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So does time flow in only one direction?
Oh, that's a really that one, I'm gonna have to
Hey,
say
we come
that.
with the heat on the Mossy
Yeah, I
Show, man.
know.
We
I
come
see.
with
I
the
see.
heat.
You come with the tough questions. I mean, I think the long answer to that would, or the short answer to that would be, I don't know, because I mean, again, like things flow in a certain way to our perspective, right? But here's where relativity kicks in by Einstein. So if you're at a black hole and you're at the event horizon, and of course, like these things are very small, dense, and violent things, like black holes. It's funny because black holes are very dark at the center, but around a black hole is probably like the bright. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I was getting a call and it randomly interrupted me. But yeah, so black holes are probably the brightest thing in the universe, even though that's the darkest thing in the universe at the same time
Mm,
because of the material outside of it. So the closer you get to the black hole, the more time warps. So if you were able to, like, let's say, sit at the edge of the event horizon, which is the part of no return, basically, like not even light could escape this part, and you were to go across that part and, like, get sucked in by the black hole, you'll be able to see, first of all, the universe would speed up in a way. It would be like pressing fast forward in on a movie. You'll see everything go kind of fast. You'll be able to see in back of you and in front of you at the same time. Like, things get really, really trippy around black holes. So it's it's a really tricky question to ask, that. So yeah, we don't quite know yet.
So this sounds like what they get the basis for, like in movies, like when they have like wormholes and people like go through them and time travel and things like that. Like that's what it sounds
Yeah,
like. They got the frame.
definitely. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. All right. This is another big one. Are we living in a simulated reality?
Oh yeah, that's a big one. I'm gonna say most likely not, and the reason why I say most likely not is because, yeah, things do seem very simulated when it comes to, like, the equations and the things that we see. We see a lot of patterns that we see in computer code, and I know that uh, Professor James Gates, he's a black physicist too. He talks, like, a lot about this. He has done research with superstring theory, with supersymmetry, and he thinks that there's a possibility of that. But I think that's kind of us being human and wanting that, in a way. Like, I think humans, we try to look at patterns that best represent what we would like, you know. I mean, we see it in many of our myths, for instance. We see a lot of gods and goddesses
Mm,
that are very human-like, and I think
right.
it's in a very similar way. The simulation hypothesis is us wanting, like, the universe to be like The Sims in a way, and I do see some evidence of that, but I think mostly it's heading towards a way where we're going to be able to say that it's less likely, the more evidence that we come across. So yeah.
So it's like us humanizing reality,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, it's taking, like, an anthropocentric view. I think that's how you say it, about the universe. Yeah.
Interesting. I always ask people if this is a simulating reality, who's simulating it, but I never get the answer.
Yeah, 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 exactly. That's my thing. It's like, who's simulated, and then
or
who
who
made
or
them,
what
you
is
know?
simulating reality? Maybe it's the dark matter. Who knows?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah.
what do you think about climate change? Is it real? Is it something that people are overreacting over? Is it something that is it a threat to our reality? What do you think about climate change?
When I first went back to college, I was really skeptical about climate change because, I heard, the rhetoric of, oh, everything's going to be, like, Florida's going to be underwater and this, that, and the third. But when I look back, it was mostly by politicians like Al Gore and people like that. And so I really delved into it, and I started becoming, I did some research in this area where, uh, we would look at patterns within the last, like, 60 years, and I would have to write, like, reports about the patterns I would see in this last 60 years. And when you look at it, you see, like, a lot of the hottest years on record, and I think humans been keeping record of the climate for at least, like, two to, I think, 200 years, or maybe 400 years. I don't know. But it was like the fact that the hottest years on record are all within the last like 30 years, it's a little
Mm,
bit scary, you know, and that
yeah.
definitely is a concern. And then to me, like when it comes to climate change, like if you don't want to listen to scientists or listen to politicians, um, you have to look at nature. You know, nature could tell you things that, you know, we can't tell you things. So like when you look at certain animals that are moving to other areas of the earth that are, you know, generally in much cooler places, but those places are becoming more warmer. Um, that has to tell you something. Plants migrate too. People
Mm,
different parts of the earth, uh, given the climate and things. So there's just so much evidence for global warming happening, and it being an issue. I mean, we see the impacts of hurricanes, for instance. Hurricanes usually start in warmer waters. So like if our waters are warmer and you know the sea level is warming, or not sea level is warming, but the sea level is rising, those hurricanes could bring more flooding, and there could be more impactful hurricanes or more hurricanes. So that is definitely a concern, I would say, for our infrastructure, no matter where we're at. So yeah, I do think climate change is concerning. I don't think it's like what, you know, politicians say it is. Like I think a lot of times they miscommunicate it, and they think that you know world's going to come to an end in 12 years, and you know there's going to
mhm,
be irreversible change, this that, and the third. We don't know about all the irreversible changes yet, or what could, you know, be really really bad in the future, but we do have a good idea of certain things like I said, increase hurricanes or increase flooding, that happens worldwide because of climate change. And by the way, it's not just warming, extreme warming temperatures we have to worry about. We have to worry about extreme cold temperatures too, because sometimes the cold front gets pushed in a long time before it's supposed to come in. I mean, what we
right.
saw in Texas last week, and you know the weeks before, is partly due to the change in climate, you know, and that wouldn't happen if the rate of warming wasn't increasing like it was. So there's a lot of problems that will come up in the future, and after many studies, we'll see that it's due to climate change. So yeah, it's definitely an issue, and I think it's a problem that we should all be mindful of.
Is climate change just linked to how we treat the planet in general, or is it something that's evolving that's like out of our control?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think I think it's largely a thing that's within our control. So scientists, they have to study the natural causes of climate change, because you know whether we're here or not, there are certain things on Earth that causes the climate change. There are volcanoes. There's, you know, the simple process of water from the oceans evaporating, going into the atmosphere, and then, you know, it warming the atmosphere. Because like let's say for instance you have a boiling hot water, and then, you know, it evaporates. That boiling water that evaporates, it's gonna is it's in the air, and it's warm. So like just simple changes like that could change the climate. So that happens whether or not we're here. And then there's the anthropocentric or anthropogenic climate change, which is basically human driven climate change, and that type of climate change happens due to
Mm,
us, you know, having industry, you know, us driving
right.
cars, and you know, using certain products all the time, and you know the fires that happen because of us, just,
Right.
you know, all that stuff you have to take into consideration, that the planes, um, that affects the climate too. And the reason why people look at climate change as such a big issue is because we're using a lot of stuff more than, you know, we've ever used it in human history due to our technology. I mean, technology is good because You know, it makes things more accessible to us. It makes food accessible worldwide. You know, that's the reason why we trade food with so many countries, and we get to taste all these nice veggies and fruits. But the bad part about it is, you know, the airplanes and all that other stuff. Like it does pollute our air, and it speeds up the warming process that would naturally happen. And when it speeds up, there are many unintended consequences that come with it. So it's really something that we should look out for. And yes, it is something within our control, I think.
Absolutely. All right. This is another big question, man. Everybody wants to hear about it. I'm sure it's all already in my comments. Do you, Eric Electrons, believe there are aliens?
Oh, I love this one. Yeah. So, yes, I do. I definitely believe that there are aliens. I think that it's just mathematically, it doesn't make sense that, you know, how
Mhm.
vast our universe is. And for those who don't know, our universe is not only like expanding, but it's expanding faster and faster. So there's more space in between galaxies the longer time goes on. So it just doesn't make sense that there wouldn't be some type of life form, be it in our galaxy or in the plethora of galaxies that are out there. And to give someone a cosmic picture here, I mean, like there are more galaxies out there that we know of than there are like grains of sand on the beach.
Mm.
So there are tons and tons of galaxies, and mathematically, it just doesn't make sense that there's not any whatsoever form of life out there. Now, whether they're as sophisticated as us or not, see, that's another question. And I think that's a harder one to answer because of all the things that could go wrong in a planet's history. You know, like people don't understand how lucky we are to be here in the first place. You know, I mean, because like first of all, we're at the right place, just far enough away from the sun where we could have life, but it's not too cold where you know it's only microbial life, and it's not you know like we could actually grow and we could thrive. You know, our gravity is just right. You know, it's not too weak, so we're not like these like slimy substances or something. You know, and then you know after all the volcanic events and after all the comets hitting Earth and all this other stuff, like we're lucky that we survived that too. So
Right.
other
So we went
planets
out
out
like
there.
the dinosaurs.
What'd you say?
I said we could have went out like the dinosaurs.
Exactly. We could have went out like the dinosaurs, but we're still here, you know. And I mean, that's just a matter of honestly luck, you know. Like there are other planets out there that wasn't so lucky, and they've been destroyed by meteors and asteroids, or maybe they were too close to the sun and any sign of life got burnt up, or maybe they were too far from the sun and it was too
Mhm.
cold. So the great thing about Earth is where we're at this Goldilocks zone where we're at the perfect place where we can have life, and that part is very hard to find in in the galaxy, let alone the universe. So whether or not there's more sophisticated life, I'm not sure, but again, I think that the math is on our side for us who believe that there are aliens because there's way too many galaxies out there for there not to be.
Absolutely. Um, the last question I have for you before we get to the comments is I got a little journal that I put out, brother. And if you ever want to get some of your articles published, you're to join Killmonger's Corner's publication, just let me know.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I'll definitely submit something for that.
All right. I'm going in the comments. I'm looking for questions. Let's see. Let's see. I know y'all had some in there. I know it. Oh, okay. So how does quantum locking work? I'm not familiar. Maybe you're familiar with that.
Quantum locking. I would need to know what they meant by that. So whoever asked that question, definitely, if you could ask more specifically about quantum locking, I would like to know, because I don't know about that.
Okay, let's move on. We are see. I knew they was out asking about this alien. I see the aliens questions. I knew it.
Yeah.
You know. Brother Jamel says, "What evidence counters the simulation theory?"
What evidence counters the simulation theory?
Mhm.
It's more so to me that simulation theory would have to provide the burden of proof. It's just like if I were to say horses fly in the sky. Like, you don't tell, you wouldn't, I wouldn't tell people like, you have to prove to me that horses don't fly in the sky. I would have to provide the evidence to show that horses fly in the sky. So it's more so like we need more evidence showing a simulation hypothesis um, than to find evidence against it, if that makes sense.
Understood. Is the mind or consciousness a concept, a theory, or a fact?
Hmm. I would say consciousness is a very, very interesting subject, and many scientists have their own little theories about it. But to me, I like to keep it very basic and say that we know that it it comes from the brain. Like we don't know, for instance, that it exists outside of the brain yet. We have no way to measure that as of yet. We don't know whether or not it's something that grows in time, or if reincarnation is a thing, and then maybe like consciousness hops from body to body. But we do know that when we measure the brain, we could see things that you're thinking, um and we could see certain patterns. Like scientists now, what they can do is they can attach these things to your head to where they could see the certain pictures that you're forming in your brain. So that gives evidence to consciousness, starting from your brain at least. And I think we have to start there versus more attractive and uh really fun concepts like consciousness may not end there. um so yeah, I think they're working on that. But I'm really excited personally to find out if we could like record dreams, because I think if we're able to record dreams, that would be definitely like evidence of
Mm.
consciousness being in your brain, and being really interesting. And I know
I
that
saw an
technology could get
article
scary.
in Scientific America about them being able to communicate with a guy in his dreams. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I definitely see that they're working diligently on that subject. There was a whole magazine with a cover on it was all about consciousness that came out. I think it was 2018 in
Hmm.
Scientific American. So they are definitely working tirelessly to answer that question, or gather evidence to submit a theory on that particular subject. So yeah, I'm excited too, because that's next level science right there.
Yeah, definitely.
Let me see. How many dimensions are there?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a mathematical question right there. Um, I like to poke fun at string theorists because they think that there's like however many dimensions it is to fit their theories, But I'm telling you, because like I think string theory started at it started like at 6 to 8 dimensions, and then they went to 10, and then they went to 12, and now I don't know how many they're at now. But uh I like to go by what we can observe in reality. And I would say, based off that, like, we live in a 4-dimensional space, basically, space and time being that fourth dimension. So Yeah, that's what I go with right now. That's what we can observe.
Okay. Actually, Rasta Man said dimensions. I stopped counting after the fourth one.
Yeah, that's
um,
a good answer.
um, intelligent design or accident?
Ooh, that's a good question too. Yeah, y'all have some really good questions. The universe seems to be more biased towards very happy accidents, and then but that doesn't mean that intelligent design isn't a thing. It doesn't mean that it's impossible. However, um, what we know right now is that the universe doesn't require intelligent design in order for it to exist from what we know currently today. So that's where we're at. But I tell people all the time, because there are many people who are religious who are they don't like science because they think that science is trying to get rid of religion, or they
Mm,
don't like science because it goes against their spiritual beliefs or whatnot. But honestly, like science isn't in opposition to your beliefs, your personal beliefs. It's more so a supplement to it. It could definitely provide a supplement to it. I mean, there are a lot of scientists who are religious themselves. I'm agnostic, so I'm not religious, but at the same time, Isaac Newton, for instance, was a Christian. There are many others who are Muslim. Um, it, you know, basically, what all I'm saying is that intelligent design isn't completely off the table, but from what we know, the universe doesn't require intelligent design for it to exist.
understood. Okay, the brother that was talking about quantum locking said that he means quantum levitation.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to quantum levitation, I mean, a lot of experiments use it, and shoot, even when it comes to like using things like I'm trying to think, uh, like shuttles, like shuttle buses, like they can use quantum levitation when it comes to that, like using magnets and things of that nature. When these forces repel. But yeah, we mainly use it with experiments. That is definitely a thing. Yeah. And it's very cool to see those experiments in person. Like I'm not sure if you've probably seen it, but like what they do is they dip like a magnet in like um, what's the I can't remember the name of it. The stuff that you put that's really cold. What was that called again? Um,
That's cold.
like dry, like what dry ice is made of. I forgot the chemical name for it. You basically put it in that substance, and you use that magnet, and it could literally float and levitate, and you could use it stuff, and they call that quantum levitation.
You mean carbon dioxide?
I think so. I think so. Um, but yeah, yeah. So quantum levitation is definitely a thing.
Awesome, awesome. Are subatomic particles conscious?
Oh, that's another good question. To our understanding, uh, we don't know, but it doesn't seem like they act on their own volition. It doesn't seem like they're aware. It doesn't seem like they have. They seem very predictable, is what I'm saying. Like,
Mm,
obviously, when we're talking about conscious, we think of it in a human way. We think like, do they think, feel, um,
mm,
taste, touch, like all this other stuff? And from what it seems like is like, no, they're very predictable. They're predictable, but they're unpredictable. So, like, let's say for instance, an electrons, the way they move in like a cloud state. They're in many states at one time. Subatomic particles could be like, in many states at one time. I mean, there's even, wave duality type thing going on. Or so, I mean, they're predictable in the way that once we measure them, we know what it is. But how particles work is if you're trying to measure like a position of a particle, you're not going to accurately measure its direction really well. But if you or its its direction or its velocity really well. But if you measure its momentum or whatnot, you can't measure its position really well. So I mean, it's very trippy, but I personally don't think that particles are conscious, at least from what we understand about it so far.
All right.
Oh, someone said liquid nitrogen. That's the thing I was trying to think of. Yeah,
nitrogen.
Yeah.
All
Thank you.
This is another one, man. How much evidence is there for the multiverse hypothesis? Now, I'm a Flash fan, so I'm I'm tuned in on this one.
Okay, so you have a little bit of bias on this one.
Yeah, I
No,
would like to be a multiverse.
Yeah, it would be really nice. I mean, there's very little evidence of that so far because, obviously, we would have to be able to measure something outside of our current universe, and we haven't yet. But the equations definitely show evidence for it. And see, that's the thing. So, like, before we get to observation, it starts at equations. There are certain things in the equations that you could use your imagination. This is the reason why Einstein says, like, your imagination is more important than like how much knowledge you have, is because he used his imagination in order to come up with relativity. He had to use his imagination to entertain an idea and put it in the equations, and then to see if it worked in the equations, and then after seeing it work in the equations, seeing it work with experiments. Like before he thought of light being able to bend and stretch and do all these things, he thought of this himself, and he sat there and he was like, oh, what if light could bend? And he put in his equations, it worked. And then they had this eclipse that happened where people from around the world, be it Africa or the Americas, wherever, they viewed this eclipse, and what they wanted to see is if light bent around the eclipse, and it did. So Einstein's equations were right, and that's what made him worldwide famous. So the equations show for it in some way, but the equations that do show for it, they're highly scrutinized, and a lot of scientists are very hard on it, and so it's not like solidified yet, if that makes sense. It's just not an idea that a lot of the top tier scientists take seriously. It's more so like a wishful thinking type thing.
God dang it.
I know.
I wanted to go to another universe we could stop slavery. But don't let me find out how to time travel. I mean, Flashpoint happening. I'm changing everything.
Yeah, where would you go? Would you go to the future or would you go to the past? If
I'm going right to the first slave ship entering Africa.
Start the revolution.
I'm coming with a translator, and the translation is going to say, "Don't let them off the boat."
Oh my goodness!
Don't let them off. I'm gonna come with something. They're gonna think I'm a deity, or I'm gonna have something. I'm gonna have a cell phone. They're gonna be like, "Oh man, we gotta listen to him."
Yeah.
Don't let them off the boat. Tell everybody you know.
So you'll warn everyone. You basically
I'm going to every country. Don't let them off.
Yeah, see, the past scares me because of how violent people are and how, like, I don't know. Like, I think the past would be very scary, like, to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you go, hey, we think we bad with guns, but you get a sword pushed through you.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we saw what, we know about what, Shaka Zulu did to, many of the armies and stuff. Like, imagine going against, like, his, oh my gosh. Like,
that's the thing. Time travel is real. I need it to be accurate. Don't drop me off in no different you best around get dropped off in the medieval period, and you were like, oh hell no, this is what I no.
Yeah, and then here's the trippy thing about
all
time
right, y'all.
travel.
This is we don't want this to get too long. We want people to actually watch this, but I will ask one more question from my elders in the building. Appreciate you tuning in, MQMZ. I will ask his question and we'll close it out. How close are we to functional quantum computing?
Oh man, see, that's another good question. Y'all have some really good questions, I'll tell you that. We're very close, but we don't actually know like when we're able to, like, where it'll be personalized, so like where everyone will have it. Quantum computers are a thing, but they're not, like what he said, functional to the point where we can use it like the computers that we use today. It's still, uh, there's a lot to discover about it. There's a lot to discover of how to use it. But I think quantum computing, because it's a new field, like quantum computing is a very, very new field. This is a field that has only like, I'm not sure, like within the last 50 years, it just popped up. So it's not an older field. It's very new. We're still discovering things, but quantum computing is going to be so good because, like, to hack someone is going to be very hard. Like, your personal information will be super safe because um, how quantum computing will work essentially is like how subatomic particles work. Subatomic particles are in a state of like being two things at one time, or superposition. And with computing now, like, it works with zeros and ones. So like if you get those zeros and ones in a good place, like, and you are able to predict it, I could easily hack into your computer. I could easily hack into the government's computer. I mean, that's the reason why the government's computers are hacked into like almost every year. And there we have like this big cybersecurity thing and all this stuff. But quantum computing will make it so that hacking will be a thing of the past. And
oh wow.
And it's just the speeds at how we are able to communicate would be a lot faster. How we get information will be a lot faster. So that's a very hard thing to achieve, but they're working on it, and it's coming up pretty soon in terms of, like, the human lifespan. I would say within the next like 150 years probably we'll have that. So yeah, that's my
awesome,
guess.
man. That's awesome, man. I want to thank you for coming on the show, man. Let the people know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank you for having me on. I want to publicly apologize for being a little bit late, so yes, thank you for having me on. But yeah, you could find me at Twitter at Eric's Electrons. That's Eric with an S at the end, Electron with an S at the end. You can find me on Instagram at Eric's Electrons again. I'm on the social media app Minds. I'm on YouTube, Eric's Electrons. Where else am I on? That's mainly all I'm on. I have a blog, but I don't write pretty often. But I'm mostly on Instagram and Twitter. I'm going to be on YouTube a lot more within the next months coming up.
Don't leave out your funny videos on TikTok.
I hopped on that just recently. So yeah, I forgot all about that. Yeah, Eric's Electrons on TikTok too. Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right, y'all, man. Y'all get at my boy Eric, man. Brilliant stuff. I will say I am proud of my audience today that came with the questions, man. Y'all had some really
questions.
I appreciate y'all coming through with the good questions, man. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Y'all already know about Killmonger's Corner Volume 1 and 2 on Amazon right now. Y'all already know about the mini productions from Kofi Pichet TV. Y'all know that we're going to continue pushing. We got the new trivia cards on KofiPichetTV.com. that you can, you know, play with your siblings or your children or whatever. My new article on the word pseudo will be dropping very soon. We're going to be setting the record straight on this word. We're going to be setting the record straight on the history of it in the conscious community and things of that nature. So look out for that. And everything else, you all know, like, share, subscribe to my channel, Kofi's channel, Masi's channel. And we're going to keep bringing y'all, you know, good information, good guests, good presentations. So thank y'all all for coming out. I appreciate you, Eric. Hang on after the broadcast. I'll talk to you for a little bit. But as always, everybody that's tuned in, Lafayette Mandela, Baby Fahoudie, it's your favorite warrior, Blak Pantha, and we out. Hodabo.